Hello everyone, my name is Daily Manhwas and welcome to another video. In this video I will be recapping this manhwa called Apocalyptic Super Farm. I hope you enjoy the video. This story begins with a boy named Tian Ran shopping at the supermarket while authorities warned residents about new cases in which animals had started attacking people due to an unknown virus outbreak. He had gone to the supermarket to buy more supplies because he knew something bad was going to happen. People were talking about how new diseases were claiming the lives of many residents. After buying the supplies, he loaded them into his van and headed home because he had to prepare dinner for his younger sister, Hanan. While he was driving, his fiancée called him to tell him that she could get him a good job in exchange for leaving Hanan at the orphanage. He refused because she was his most cherished family. Upon hearing this, his fiancée broke up with him as she didn't want to take care of a baby for nothing. While he was distracted, an animal crossed the road, and due to the high speed of the vehicle, the car collided with the animal. He thought it must have been a stray dog, but upon closer inspection, he realized it was a sheep that was still alive with its brains exposed. The sheep moved away from the road and into the bushes. He was scared but thought it was better not to call the police. After a while, he arrived home, and as soon as he got there, his sister came running to greet him along with their two dogs named Xiao Bai and Xiao Hai. She was happy because he had brought a lot of things. He gave her a small bag, and both of them headed inside. On the way, Hanan told him that she had filled the barn with hay, changed the water, and watered the crops, and now she was very hungry. As they walked through the fields, Xiao Bai started eating the harvest. Hanan hit him and told him that the harvest wasn't for him. On the way, they passed by the barn, and one of the bulls that had already been infected by the virus began to look at them aggressively. While preparing the meal, the radio informed them that tonight there would be the most spectacular total solar eclipse of the century. While they were eating, the reporter started the countdown, and the sky began to darken, the light went out, and it became very cold. The dog started barking, so they both went out of the house and were shocked to see a snowstorm in the middle of summer. He told Hanan to stay in the house while he went to lock up the cows and sheep along with Xiao Hai. Both of them headed towards the barn, but on the way, the storm grew much stronger, and the sun was completely blocked by the moon, causing a bright light to appear in the sky. While he was amazed by the beauty of the eclipse, Xiao Hai sensed that something was wrong. He realized that the plants, the snowstorm, and the sun were very strange. Xiao Hai started barking to alert him that there was a mutant bull behind him. Thanks to the barking, he turned around and dodged the mutant bull's charge. He knew that he wouldn't stand a chance in hand-to-hand combat against the bull. So, he fled to find his compound bow. While he searched, the bull attacked Xiao Hai. He grabbed his bow and aimed at the bull, and at that moment, a blue interface appeared to guide him. He was startled and quickly shot the 4 arrows he had at the mutant bull. Despite having 4 arrows in its head, the bull was still alive and ready to charge again. While he searched for more ammunition, a window appeared again, indicating that he had 0 arrows left. While he was distracted, the mutant bull seized the opportunity to charge at him. Xiao Hai approached him and began biting his pants, barking towards the house. He understood that if the cow had suddenly mutated, then Hanan was in danger. Inside the house, Xiao Bai had also mutated. She didn't know what was happening and tried to calm him down. But Xiao Bai became more aggressive and attempted to attack her. At that moment, Tian Ran appeared and gave Xiao Bai a strong kick. He quickly grabbed Hanan to take her to a safe place as there was a lot of danger outside. After a few seconds, he arrived at a farm and another system window appeared, indicating that he had 4 lives within reach. He didn't know what this window was or why it had appeared like this, so he left Hanan in the house and told her not to go outside, no matter what happened. The number of lives within reach increased to 5, and Xiao Bai attacked him from behind. Xiao Hai quickly came to his aid, and while they fought, Tian Ran began to flee from the mutant bull. Along the way, he grabbed an axe and positioned himself in front of a tree. The mutant bull charged, but he narrowly dodged it at the last moment, causing the bull's horns to get stuck in the tree. Just as he was about to deliver the final blow to the mutant bull, Xiao Bai appeared from behind and bit it in the neck. The bull took advantage of this moment to free itself and also charged at him, impaling him with its horns. As his eyes closed, another system window appeared, stating that the end of the world survival game was in progress, and more windows began to appear. Even on the brink of death, he was determined to defeat the mutant beasts to save Hanan. But it didn't take long before he lost consciousness, and another system window appeared, indicating that the final judgment game had successfully matched. The Apocalypse game loaded successfully, and he was chosen as the player. He possessed a poorly ranked level 1 mansion, so the system rewarded him with an ability called the Eye of Truth. To level up the fortress, he needed 8 million points. He woke up but didn't understand how he was alive. He remembered being impaled by the bull's horn, and while his clothes were torn, the wound was gone. Looking around, he saw that the mutant bull's body was split in half, and Xiao Bai was unconscious. He didn't know what had happened after he lost consciousness, but the system informed him that this destructive power was beyond what humans could do. The system showed him that once he lost consciousness, his identity as a player was activated, granting him incredible power. With a single punch, he knocked out Bai, and with a single swing of the axe, he decapitated the mutant bull. He had been dead, but his wounds had healed, and he had gained a power that wasn't his thanks to the system. A window notified him that the game had loaded successfully, his shelter had been linked, the point center had been activated, and rewards for beginners had been distributed. A lightning bolt implanted information directly into his brain, informing him that the first round of the wave of destruction had ended, and the second wave was only 0 days away. His shelter was his only fortress he could rely on. His task as a player was to survive the apocalyptic game and turn his refuge into a stronger fortress. Bai was unconscious, and according to the system, both he and the bull had mutated after accidentally eating poison plants. After the mutation, their bodies were stronger, and their character was very cruel. He wrapped Bai's body and put it in a cage to prevent further attacks. He entered the barn and saw that the electrical system was still not restored, and there was no mobile signal, but he still had the diesel generators. Using his mobile phone's light, he began searching for Han. After a while, he found her in a corner sleeping. She asked about Bai, and he told her that Bai was injured and couldn't meet with her right now. With reward points, he could buy some seeds that could be planted in poisoned soil, but these seeds were very expensive, and he currently didn't have many points. All supplies that had come into direct contact with the ground were already contaminated, and with the current disconnection, the situation outside wasn't going to change. He had to deal with all sources of contamination. He went down to the basement of his house, started the diesel generator, took one of the guns, and placed a walkie-talkie beside Han before leaving the house to head to the city. Along the way, all the mutant animals began chasing him because they were attracted to him. Then an armed van arrived and scared away the animals with a turret before accelerating to stop his car. The soldier aimed the turret at him. He was a soldier from the army stationed at the central base. The soldier informed him that going outside was very dangerous, and if he needed supplies, he could head to one of the designated supply points. The military was using planes and helicopters because there were many mutant animals. He was heading to the city because he was concerned about Zhonglai, his ex-fiancée. The city was in complete chaos, with only police cars patrolling the streets now. There was only one ambulance left, and the hospital had no more beds for patients. The emergency service had been deactivated because the current medical system was partially paralyzed and unable to cope with the side effects of the radioactive plants. The government had set up several supply acquisition offices throughout the city, and citizens had to stand in line, each with a purchase quota. But it was all chaotic. While some had nothing to eat, others fought over food. As he was on his way to Zhonglai's house, a van appeared in front of him, and a chubby man got out to sell him food because he had seen him scavenging around the warehouses. The protagonist had a feeling that something was wrong with the food and told the man that if he took a bite in front of him, he would buy everything. The man became nervous and tried to force his way through the window. The protagonist pulled out a gun and told him that in this kind of business, nobody would blame him if he shot him. The man left resentful because he was having a bad day. Tianran finally arrived at his ex-fiancee's apartment. When he knocked on the door, she didn't respond, so he took the keys from under the mat and entered her home. She was a clean person, but her house was messy. She had eaten contaminated fruits and pills, as she had purchased antibiotics from a disreputable pharmaceutical company. There were no traces of blood in the house, and the door lock showed no signs of being forced, so he didn't know where she had gone in this chaotic world. He returned to his farm on the outskirts of the city, and the system informed him that the bonus from the refuge skill called the Eye of Reality allowed him to see all objects and creatures as data. The level 1 refuge skill permitted him to remotely control the refuge even if he left it. He could perceive the real-time situation in the refuge and all commercial products at any time. Currently, he didn't have many gains, and his greenhouse was in ruins, but he planned to upgrade the farm items using points. While he was tilling the land, his sister alerted him that the seeds were sprouting at an incredible speed. These were radiation-resistant tomato seeds that took 48 hours to mature and were radiation-proof. As they gained more points, both Han and he could survive in this apocalyptic world. He had taught Han several rules. She couldn't eat food given by anyone other than her older brother. She couldn't leave the farm without his consent. If she discovered an animal with a strange condition, she should hide, and she had to take good care of Hai and not let him eat randomly. A system window notified him that the anti-radiation crops were ripe and needed to be harvested as soon as possible. These anti-radiation tomatoes were rich in nutrition, and long-term consumption could effectively improve physical condition. He took a bite of one of the tomatoes, and the fatigue from the work disappeared. Now, not only did he have food, but he also received attribute bonuses as the crops improved. In this system, everything worked with points. The number of points varied from one function to another, and the exchange system was the only source of points. The exchange system was mainly used for recovering crops, livestock meat, and minerals, dividing them into different prices based on different levels. Radiation-resistant crops were worth 1 point, ancient medicine crops were worth 100 points, powerful divine level crops were worth 1,000 points, and super god level profit crops were worth 10,000 points. The system provided a complete service, from supply and distribution to recycling. With enough points, he could turn his farm into a first-class military base in the blink of an eye. The tomato harvest had gone very well, but the ancient medicine-grade crop harvest had only yielded 3 carrots because it had a maturity rate of only 10%. However, these carrots could eliminate all negative effects like poisoning and disease, including irreversible damage caused by negative effects. He thought about selling 70% of the food and redeeming it for points, and keeping the rest in his backpack as a reserve. He sold 70% of the food and exchanged it for points, keeping the rest in his inventory, and recycling the 200 grams, he obtained a total of 2,000 points. As a reward for completing his first recycling, the system awarded him the title of Master Recycler and a small recycling robot. He initially thought the small robot was useless, but in the blink of an eye, the tiny recycling robot processed everything. His consciousness was connected to the system, so the robot could directly perceive instructions from his brain. Seeing how powerful the farming robot was, he considered earning more points to exchange for a combat robot for Hanan's safety. He returned home and prepared chicken legs to celebrate the success of seed germination. Now they didn't have to hoard food, they could plant it and even share it. However, if a stranger found out they were growing food at home, they would be fined and banned from eating for 3 days. Tianran gave the first chicken leg to Xiao Hai as a reward for protecting them. Hanan was happy but also sad because Xiao Bai wasn't with them. Tianran comforted her, saying that Xiao Bai was injured and couldn't see her at the moment, but as soon as he got better, he would come back to play with her. A system window warned him that someone was trying to invade his house, and using facial scanning of the intruder, he saw that it was Uncle Nan. He went out to ask Uncle Nan why he had come. Uncle Nan had come to ask for a favor. His house had been robbed, and all his food had been stolen. He couldn't afford to buy food from the supermarket because it was too expensive, so he had come to ask for some food. At first, Tianran refused because he didn't have many provisions, as the food he had planted had been destroyed by the mutation. However, after hearing that Uncle Nan had asked many relatives for food and hadn't gotten anything, he gave him a bag of instant noodles that he had left over. This food would only last him about 5 days. Although he didn't lack food now, in recent days, people had become unpredictable, and he still had to learn to hide his secrets. At night, Hanhan and Tianran went to Uncle Nan's house to get some more food because in the past, he used to take care of their family. She remembered that he had a younger son who used to give her candy all the time. After a while, they arrived in the city. The streets were very quiet. As they got out of the car, Tianran overheard Uncle Nan asking his son where he had gone yesterday. His son was vomiting blood. Both of them approached the window, and Hanhan asked if Uncle Nan's son was going to die. He told her he was okay and not to look at him. The symptoms seemed as if he had accidentally eaten contaminated vegetables. At that moment, Tianran thought that he could be the perfect test subject to try the carrots. Desperate, Uncle Nan laid his son down while not knowing what to do. At that moment, a stone broke his window. Desperate, he tried to find the culprit, but his son pointed at the stone and told him that someone had thrown a bag of food. When he opened the bag, he found a note saying that if he wanted to save his son, he should feed him the carrot. Nan thought it couldn't be true since not even the big hospitals could cure him. As his son's eyes closed with his last strength, he asked to try eating the carrot to die slowly. Uncle Nan gave the carrot to his son, and as soon as he ate it, he began to vomit blood but slowly started to recover. Electricity was also restored, and mobile signal returned. Tianran picked up his phone and tried to call Lin Zhang, but her number was unavailable. She was unconscious in a van. The kidnappers had taken her phone and turned it off so they couldn't be traced. They were going to trade her for several months' worth of food. As they were returning home, Hanhan mentioned that Tan had been vomiting blood but improved immediately after eating the carrot. After his body improved, it changed from gray to blue in color. Upon hearing this, Tianran thought that she was a girl who loved animation, describing things in a graphic way. At that moment, something jumped onto their car. It was a mutant monkey. Tianran swerved off the road, and the monkey tried to attack him, but he pulled out his gun and shot it, causing it to fall onto the hood. He seized this opportunity and accelerated the car to ram the mutant monkey into a tree, then finished it off with the gun. Upon approaching the monkey, he saw it had a serial number. This was unusual since there were no farms or zoos nearby. He suspected it might be linked to the Ran Pharmaceuticals. Both of them returned home, and Tianran told Hannan to watch cartoons while he attended to an important matter. He went up to the attic of their house where Xiao Bai was. He gave Xiao Bai a carrot to eat since it could eliminate toxins from toxic vegetables. A lightning bolt struck the house, causing Hannan to flee in fear and search for Tianran. She climbed up to the attic and, seeing him from behind, startled him. But at that moment, she was shocked to see Bai dead on the floor. With tears in her eyes, she asked if they had more carrots that could save lives. He told her that carrots couldn't save life forms that had already been infected with mutations, so Bai was dead. The next day, they burned Bai's body and buried him next to a tree. Han was deeply affected by the death of her dog and spent the entire day watching television. Meanwhile, Tianran went out to harvest the mature anti-radiation crops. In total, he harvested 500 kilograms of anti-radiation crops and 10 kilograms of ancient medicine. He sold all his crops and upgraded his dilapidated greenhouse to a level 2 greenhouse. The system warned him that his refuge's defense level was only at level 3, which could protect against small wild animals but posed a high risk. Therefore, it recommended that he build a defense system as soon as possible. Improving the security of the farm should be his top priority, as the current crop level was not very profitable in terms of point growth. Without hesitation, he upgraded the refuge's walls, installed wall-mounted electric grids, and bought a cruise radar. He was running low on points and needed to get some mechanical guards for Han. Currently, he didn't have enough points to buy them, so he decided to sell the grain from the storage, knowing that he could replenish it later if he ran out of points. With the points from selling the grain, he purchased a level 1 hummingbird and a level 2 bloodhound. The hummingbird had great precision and could patrol the area as a sniper, while the bloodhound had strong ground attack capabilities, making it the perfect guardian for Han. He returned home with Bai, the bloodhound, and told Han that from now on, Bai would follow her everywhere and protect her. In the offices of Ran Pharmaceuticals, a scientist informed the CEO Liang Tianyu that subject number 7 was now capable of penetrating 5mm steel plates. The vice president, Ren, was not satisfied with the lack of medical equipment donations. Tianyu was concerned that if Ren found out, she might report them. He ordered the scientist to instruct Chen Nan to keep an eye on Ren Xiao because he couldn't allow her to ruin his business plans. If this plan succeeded, he could gain a substantial fortune. The vice president quickly found out and went to the director's office to express her concern. She mentioned that the medical system in Nanchang was paralyzed, and as a company, they should guide employees to help the hospital instead of conducting experiments on animals. Tianyu, being a businessman, aimed to make profits, and he didn't believe that current medical methods could play a significant role in this global-level disease. Both of them could develop a solution and get rich from it. They agreed that if she could compare notes with the work and increase the workforce, the progress of this project would be much faster. She accepted, but with the condition of going to the laboratory and checking the progress. She arrived at the laboratory using a card given by one of the scientists. The lab director showed her that Subject 7 was the only one who hadn't gone insane, and after the experiment, his power had multiplied by 10. One of the workers rushed in and explained to the director that they had a problem. He left as an emergency had arisen. Due to high security, the director left her alone in the room. She activated her earpiece and contacted one of her men to scan for a secret entrance. She entered the secret room and was shocked to see Subject 51, Lin Zhang. Back at the farm, Han and Tianran were harvesting corn since they had worked quite a bit. He prepared roasted corn for them, recalling that Han's appetite had surpassed his recently, likely due to the system's cultivation. After eating radiation-resistant vegetables, their body data had increased significantly. If she continued eating at this rate, he thought she would turn into a giant Barbie. While they were eating, a window notified him that they had a visitor. The visitor was Tan, who had come back with the food he had given him the other day. He had come to give him some food as a thank you gesture for lending them instant noodles the other day. Tianran asked him where he had gotten the food, and Tan replied that someone with a kind heart had left it in his backyard. Tan had come to ask for the car since he had heard that in the city of Nangshan, someone had opened a new market with many good things. He wanted Tianran to accompany him because he didn't have a driver's license, and he didn't know the way. Tianran was fine with taking him because he had originally planned to go to that market to inquire about the situation. Also, now he didn't have to worry about leaving Han alone since he had robot guards taking care of her. He told Han to stay at home and not open the door to strangers. In return, he promised to bring her some candy. She replied that it was okay because her new dog Dubai was incredible, but she wanted to greet Tan. She hid in the car and waved at Tan. After seeing his body, she was impressed. At that moment, Tianran took her out of the car, and they left. On the way, Tan took out his phone and started sending messages. When he noticed that Tianran was looking, he quickly put it away. Tan told him he didn't have enough money, so he was asking a friend for a loan via his mobile phone. While Han was watching TV, she remembered that Tan could also change color. The last time she had seen him, he was green, and now he was red. On the way, Tianran gave him some money because he had helped his family a lot in the past. Tan didn't want to accept it, but Tianran insisted and gave it to him. To reach the city, they had to follow the straight road, but just when it was time to turn, Tan took the wheel and told him that the straight road was blocked. He recommended taking the right road instead. Tian Ran found it strange because he had been going on this road all the time, and it was a major road. Unless a natural disaster had occurred, it shouldn't be blocked. Nervously, Tan told him that a friend had told him the road was blocked. Tian Ran was suspicious, so he told Tan to call his friend because he wanted to hear it for himself. Tan said that if they didn't turn now, it would be too late, and he asked Tian Ran to trust him. Seeing his insistence, Tian Ran trusted him and turned onto the right road. In the distance, a man dressed as a guard knew that something had gone wrong and Tan had betrayed them. However, he had already sent some men down the other road because he knew something like this might happen. While they were driving, Tan apologized to Tian Ran for betraying him. He explained that his father had been kidnapped by the men from Ran Pharmaceuticals. They had asked Tan to get Tian Ran away from the farm so they could capture Hanan and use her to obtain the cure for the mutation. At that moment, a car started following them at high speed. Tian Ran finally realized that the questions Tan had asked him earlier were meant to find out if the farm was protected. He planned to settle the score with Tan later, but for now, he just wanted to eliminate all the guards who had entered the farm. A few days ago, Tan was so hungry that he ate a contaminated apple that had come into contact with the ground. His father was thanking the gods because a bag of food had fallen from the sky and saved his life. He thought that if there really was a god, then this global catastrophe shouldn't have happened, and the bag that had fallen from the sky had been delivered by someone who didn't want to be identified. He left his house and went to a friend's house, asking Tan to check the surveillance cameras at his house under the pretext that someone had broken in and stolen from him. He entered his friend's house, accessed the computer, and saw a van parked near his house, and he knew whose it was. He quickly returned home and told his father that Tian Ran was the one who had saved him. He had planned to tell Ran Pharmaceuticals about the medication he had and that they were paying a lot of money for special medicines. He wanted them to be able to survive in this apocalyptic world because with just one bag of food, they wouldn't last long. His father slapped him and told him that if he did this, he would condemn Tian Ran and his little sister. After fleeing for several minutes, 2 cars blocked the road, so Tian Ran stopped the car and got out with Tan. Then a man named Nan got out of the car and told him that he knew he had the medication for radiation poisoning. He asked Tian Ran to form an alliance because they wanted the medicine to sell and make money. He gave him 2 options. The first was to cooperate with them, and together they would make money, and the second was to forcefully hand over the medicine. Tian Ran told him that he only had one medicine, and he had used it to cure Tan. Nan didn't believe this, so he took out his phone and ordered his men to enter the farm and force-feed his little sister a radioactive fruit. With a murderous look in his eyes, Tian Ran told them that he hated people who threatened him. He had planned to kill them all. Seeing that he had no intention of cooperating, Nan ordered his men to attack him and cut his tendons to let him die slowly. At the farm, Nan's men began to demolish the walls using an excavator. Furious, Tian Ran started to beat them up, and at the farm, Hanan was throwing explosive rocks. Thanks to the improved condition from consuming the super crops, they were no match for him. Over the past 7 days, he had only been eating the super crops, so his statistics were much better than those of an average adult. Not only had his strength and speed improved, but his bones were now much harder and nerve speed was much faster. He grew tired of using physical force and pulled out a gun to eliminate the guards, as he didn't consider them important. Nan managed to dodge the bullet and took cover behind a rock. At that moment, Tian Ran approached and opened his inventory to reload his gun, then he eliminated the last guard. At the farm, Hanan had taken care of all the intruders with the help of the robotic pets. She thought about hiding the bodies because if her brother found out she was a violent child, he might not like her anymore. Tian Ran eliminated everyone except Nen, whom he intended to torture for information. Nen revealed that General Tianhu was in charge of everything and kept it a secret. Currently, only the guards knew about this matter. Recently, he had a disagreement with another vice president, and now he was trying to use his authority to elevate his position to a higher level to claim credit in front of the central office and expel the vice president from South City. The Rand Company had a monopoly in the South, but it remained only a subsidiary of a conglomerate. The vice president had a backer in the central office, and Tianyu didn't dare to take this matter to the central office because if the information leaked, his reputation would be ruined. Tian asked Nen to take him to Tianyu. He called Tianyu and told him that they had captured Tian Ran, but he only wanted to talk face to face and wanted to see Uncle Nan. Tianyu agreed to meet at Warehouse 78. Tan disguised himself as a guard, and the 3 of them headed to the warehouse. After a few minutes, they arrived at the warehouse, and Tan told Tianyu that the messenger had been knocked out and thrown from the car, and Nen had a stomachache, so he had been asked to bring Tian Ran to the warehouse. Tan's father tried to warn them that if they spoke, no one would come out alive. Upon seeing this, Tianyu knocked him to the ground, and his men began to beat him. At that moment, Tian Ran broke through the ceiling and pointed his gun at Tianyu. Tianyu thought that he got betrayed by Nen. Then the protagonist asked him how he had become the head of Ran with such a low IQ, and Tianyu revealed that the man he found next to Tan was Nen. All of Tianyu's guards rushed to help him, but they were eliminated by Tianran. After eliminating all the guards, Tianran also took down Tianyu. Tan and his father began to apologize for betraying him, but he had no intention of harming them as he didn't consider it necessary. He told them to stack the bodies while he went to fetch the car. After a few minutes, they piled up all the bodies except for Nen's. As they approached Nen, he attacked Tan's father with a piece of glass to the leg. Nen knew he was going to die anyway, so he was willing to take one with him. He attacked Uncle Nan with the glass, but at that moment, Tan appeared and took the full force of the attack. Tianran arrived immediately in the car and rammed Nen against the wall. Using his last bit of strength, Tan gave Tianran some candies for Hanhan and then lost his life. Uncle Nan, in a fit of rage, took the glass and slowly ended Nen's life. Then, they burned down the warehouse and fled. In the Rand Pharmaceuticals offices, one of the men informed the vice president that Tianyu had died and all the bodies had been burned. She knew Tianyu had messed with the wrong person, but she was pleased and planned to celebrate tonight with several bottles of wine. Tianran bought a bomb button and attached it to Uncle Nan to prevent him from betraying him in the future. They both returned to the farm, and Hannan hid all the intruders' bodies, making excuses to avoid being discovered. However, Tianran knew everything, so he told her that she didn't need to hide them because he didn't care about what she had done. He explained that she was his most important family, and he was also pleased to see that she could defend herself. She told him that she had started seeing bright lights emanating from people. Her brother was blue, Xiao Hai was green, Tan was red, and Uncle Nan was gray. Those with a red light were malicious people. She had gained this ability a week ago thanks to the radiation-proof vegetables. The crops redeemed by the system had no side effects and had a very high mutation probability. Both Tianran and Hannan had eaten these foods for a few days, and their physical functions had improved. Hannan had developed the ability to see the emotions of other people. Her ability was very useful, so Tianran asked her to immediately alert him if she saw anyone with a red light from now on. After this conversation, they went to eat, and Tianran revealed to Hannan that from now on, Uncle Nan would stay with them and help with their farming work. Uncle Nan told her that his son had gone elsewhere to atone for his sins, and she understood that anyone who had intimidated her brother wouldn't last long. Uncle Nan's hands were already stained with blood, and all he wanted was to avenge his son. To achieve this, he was willing to be Tianran's guardian. 15 days had passed since the cataclysm, and the death toll had risen to 43 million. The federal government was actively mobilizing food reserves, and soilless farming technology was being put into large-scale production. Bai Jingyin's father called him to inform him that Tianyu had died, and now the mutation process had accelerated. The military police headquarters had captured a level 5 mutated beast in the southern mountains. This was unusual because the highest level they had previously investigated was level 3, which was the result of Bai's artificial catalysis. In the deep mountains and old forests where there was no human intervention, radioactive vegetation was abundant. Even the lowest level species that cannibalized each other had accelerated the intensity of mutation. Due to this, existing human technology was vulnerable to an unknown natural evolution. Therefore, his father assigned him Tianyu's laboratory. He wanted him to combine his technology with Tianyu's to extract the virus. The records from 2 days ago were completely normal, and the cause of Tianyu's death was related to those 2 days. However, Tianyu had deleted the surveillance records from those 2 days, so all leads had been lost. Today was the day the vice president was supposed to receive the new head to show him the location for the new institute. This new head was Bai, and he had come along with his assistant Kiwi. He asked her to take him to the location of the new institute. On the farm, Tianran had unlocked a variety of edible fish, including rare fish that were difficult to obtain before the apocalypse. They couldn't afford to eat this type of fish before, but now they could have as many as they wanted. They planned to use the excavator to dig a pond. First, they marked the land with a line, and Uncle Nan asked how old Xiao Hai was because he had grown much bigger than before. This was strange because he was an adult and couldn't keep growing. Tianran realized that Xiao Hai had grown thanks to the radiation-proof crops. A notification warned him of 3 visitors with a threat level of 8. The visitors were the vice president, Bai, and his assistant Kiwi. They had come because Bai liked the location of the farm, and it was very large. After a few minutes, Tianran arrived. Bai asked him to open the door because they needed to discuss an important matter. He refused, saying he was busy. The general manager of the Rand company said she had come to buy his farm. She didn't care about the price, whether it was supplies or a house in the city center. Tianran refused because he liked living on the farm and had no intention of selling it, even for a mountain of gold. Huey got angry and banged on the door. The security system activated, but Tianran told it not to attack. At that moment, Bai approached and slapped him, telling him not to act this way without permission. Seeing this, Tianran asked Kiwi to come closer and then punched him because he had hit his door, and now they were even. He asked them to leave if they had no other business to discuss.